The BP Oil Spill by Peter Benoit. Chapter 4, Cleanup. After booms were placed, skimmers were used to skim oil from the water. Many methods used to clean up oil in the Gulf were the same as those for the Exxon Valdez spill. Workers hired to clean up the mess tackled the job on three fronts. First, they tried to keep surface oil away from sensitive ecosystems. They used floating barriers called booms to block the movement of oil. Problems arose, though, when waves carried oil over and under the booms. Dispersing the oil. Second, the cleanup workers hoped to disperse the oil by adding special chemicals to the water. If the slicks could be broken into tiny drops, it would be easier for bacteria in the water to dissolve the oil. Not only did workers apply chemicals to the surface, they also used the substance in deep water. Airplanes spread dispersing chemicals onto the oil slicks. Workers used almost 2 million gallons, 7.6 million liters of dispersing chemicals. As the oil breaks down and dissolves, it makes the water toxic. This affects the Gulf ecosystem by killing tiny floating plants called phytoplankton. All sea life depends on phytoplankton. Tiny animals eat it. They are in turn eaten by larger animals, which are eaten by even larger animals, and so on. Large gatherings of phytoplankton can cause the water to appear green. Removing the oil. Workers removed oil from the water. Booms corralled oil into areas where machines called skimmers scooped it up. Cleanup crews use several types of skimmers. Drum, disc, and rope skimmers attract oil as they are pulled along. The oil sticks to the skimmers. It is then wiped off and stored in collection containers. Another kind of skimmer sucks in water and oil like a vacuum. BP hired local fishing crews to help pull skimmers. The tools of removal. In places far from sensitive areas, such as wildlife reserves, workers burn the oil. This is the fastest and simplest way to remove oil from the water. But burning causes air pollution. Plus, the oil that is left still has to be skimmed off the water. Oil-eating bacteria also help with cleanup. Tiny bacteria live everywhere. They live on the ocean floor, in trees, and inside the human body. A few of the millions of bacteria species living in the ocean eat oil. They help solve the spilled oil, but they could not do all the work by themselves. The controlled burns for the BP oil spill were the biggest ever. Bacteria at work. The oil in the Gulf doesn't all come from spills. Every year, thousands of gallons of oil escape the seafloor on their own. Some Gulf bacteria live on it. Scientists think bacteria that were already in the water ate part of the oil plumes from the BP disaster. Unfortunately, as these bacteria multiply, they use up more oxygen in the water. If the oxygen level gets too low, other species die. Microscopic bacteria played an important role in the cleanup process. Cost of cleanup. The cleanup process caused problems of its own. Several of the dispersing chemicals, for example, caused cancer. In addition, doctors reported cases of workers and people onshore suffering from breathing problems, skin rashes, and nausea. The crisis also led to stress and other problems. Cleanup workers faced dangers, and many people onshore lost jobs and money. Oil can cause health problems through contact with the skin or when workers breathe in oil fumes. Workers wear special clothing to help protect against sickness caused by oil. Chapter 5, After the Spill. The oil well was finally capped after months of work. Workers permanently sealed the well on September 17, 2010. An estimated 205.8 million gallons, or 779 million liters of oil, escaped before crews capped the well. Offshore, massive underwater oil plumes, 4,000 feet, or 1,200 meters below the surface, cannot evaporate. It will take a long time for them to dissolve and mix in with the surrounding water. This is because deep water is denser than water near the surface. Oil-eating bacteria living in the ocean will do a lot to help this process. Endangered again. Animal species that had been endangered before the spill faced renewed threats to their survival after the spill. Some experts believe that more than 20% of the Gulf's endangered Atlantic bluefin tuna may have died. The brown pelican, meanwhile, had just escaped the endangered species list for the first time in decades. But oil killed so many of the birds that it could end up threatened once more. West Indian manatees swim to Gulf waters every summer. Now oil may get into their bodies when they eat sea plants. Dozens of Kemp's Ridley sea turtles, already the world's rarest sea turtle species, washed up dead after the spill. Volunteers try to save the turtles' young by putting eggs in machines to keep them warm. The spill's effects on some species may not show up for years. Altogether, more than 8,000 species were affected. Timeline of the oil spill. April 20th, 2010, an explosion on the Deepwater Horizon leads to a deadly fire. April 22nd, an oil slick is discovered in the Gulf of Mexico. May 6th, oil hits the Louisiana coast more than 40 miles, 64 kilometers from the spill site. July 15th, the leaking well is capped and the well temporarily closed. September 17th, the well is permanently sealed with cement. Hard-hit companies. The spill damaged BP's image. The disaster itself created plenty of bad feelings, and then BP denied the leak was as severe as it turned out to be. Tony Hayward, the company's top official, did more harm by complaining that the spill took up all his time. The financial cost to the company has also been high. In 2010, BP spent more than $10 billion on the cleanup. BP is the world's fourth largest company. Tony Hayward resigned from BP in July 2010. Even before the well was capped, BP faced legal cases filed by hundreds of companies and individuals. BP spent millions of dollars settling with others to avoid future legal action. Profits took a hit as well. The company's value fell by more than half during the disaster. In September 2010, BP predicted that the spill's total cost to them would likely be about $32 billion. Many people around the world protested against BP. Costly decisions. Decisions made in order to save time and money on the Deepwater Horizon ended up having great costs. For 11 people aboard the rig, the price was their lives. Thousands more lost their jobs. It will take several more years to understand the full impact of the spill and the real effectiveness of cleanup efforts. Researchers are still studying the causes that led to the spill. Even with the oil well capped, the U.S. government continues to collect oil and water samples to help them predict where the oil will go next. Oil from the spill could continue to cause problems for years to come. True statistics. Amount of oil spilled in BP disaster, 205.8 million gallons, or 779 million liters. Number of people in Deepwater Horizon when it exploded, 126. Number of people killed in the explosion, 11. Cost to build Deepwater Horizon in 2001, $350 million. Amount of time that oil leaked from the uncapped well, about 3 months. Maximum amount of oil leaked per day, 5,000 barrels. Length of oil plume found near wellhead, 22 miles, 35 kilometers long. Amount of oil dispersing chemicals used, almost 2 million gallons, or 7.6 million liters. Thickness of oil on Gulf seafloor, 2 inches, or 5 centimeters. Did you find the truth? False. No one survived the Deepwater Horizon explosion. It was true. The BP oil spill affected more than 8,000 species. Here's a picture of a sea turtle. There's some resources. I have this book in my library. Organizations and websites and places to visit. Important words and an index. And about the author. The end.